Good morning. Let me start by saying Democrats are more steadfast than ever in our demands to reform ICE and remove Kristi Noem. Every week we learn more disturbing information about the damage this administration is doing in our communities and how this agency is failing the American people. It's not just Democrats calling for meaningful changes. Recent Quinnipiac and Marist polls both showed nearly 2/3 of Americans disapprove of ICE's enforcement of immigration law. The American people are fed up with what they are seeing in their hard-earned tax dollars going toward brutalizing law-abiding immigrants, detaining children, breaking into homes and cars, and killing U.S. citizens. Democrats have put forward a list of common-sense changes we want to see in ICE. Our asks are simple. They're not extreme. We want ICE to be held to the same standards as our local law enforcement. Yet Republicans seem hell-bent on shutting down the Department of Homeland Security because they don't want to impose these changes that include removing masks, requiring judicial warrants, and prohibiting excessive use of force. Our proposal has been in front of Republicans since last week, and we stand ready to work with our colleagues to enact solutions to reform these critical agencies while protecting FEMA, TSA, and the Coast Guard. But we will not continue to spend Americans' tax dollars to a lawless agency headed up by an out-of-control cabinet secretary until there is more accountability. Democrats are focused on keeping our communities safe and making life more affordable to the American people. It's time Republicans finally join us in those efforts. Vice Chair Ted Lieu.
Thank you, Chairman Aguilar. We have an affordability crisis in America. Americans are drowning in bills and in debt, and we know grocery prices continue to increase, the cost of everyday items continue to increase. One large reason is because of Trump's tariffs, which are increasing prices. And what are Republicans doing? They're putting into a rules vote that we can't even introduce bills to challenge Trump's tariffs. They're trying to silence members of Congress from even introducing bills to try to stop Trump's harmful tariffs. Any Republican that votes for this rule owns the consequences of these harmful tariffs, which are increasing costs. Now I'd like to talk about why Howard Lutnik must resign. Howard Lutnik knew Jeffrey Epstein was evil. I'm just going to read you some of what Howard Lutnik said in his own words. He called Jeffrey Epstein the greatest blackmailer ever. He said that when he and his wife visited Epstein's house, Epstein showed him a space to, quote, get a massage. Lutnik said they get a massage, that's what his MO was, get a massage, and I assume that was on video. This guy was the greatest blackmailer ever, blackmailed people, that's how he had money. And then he gets weirdly close to me, and Epstein says, and the right kind of massage. This then caused Lutnik to say to the American people in an interview, quote, we'll never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again. Well, guess what? The Epstein Files new release shows that not only did Howard Lutnik lie to American people, he went into business with Jeffrey Epstein. He visited Epstein Island. And Howard Lutnik did this knowing how evil Epstein was. Lutnik also lied to American people. And really the real reason he should resign, he's just like one of the most politically stupidest cabinet members I've ever seen. He knew this stuff was in the Epstein Files. And yet he goes and gives an interview where he makes up these lies knowing it's going to come back and hurt him. So he just got to resign for all those reasons.
Questions?
Thank you. Are you guys expecting full attendance this afternoon for the tariff vote? It looks like it's going to be pretty tight.
It's a question for Whip Clark, but I'll tell you Democrats are energized to vote against this rule. We know what's at stake. As the Vice Chair mentioned, this is about affordability and making sure that we are standing on behalf of our constituents and pushing back against these incredible tariffs that are raising prices for everyday Americans. So that's what we're up against, and I expect Democrats to put nose up on the board, and we're encouraging members to show up when there are meaningful votes, and I would expect that to be the case today. Eric.
What is the White House counteroffer on DHS? What are they willing to do, and what are they not willing to do?
I haven't seen the letter, but it's not enough. That's what Leader Jeffries has indicated with Leader Schumer, and that we sent over not just the 10 requests, but legislative text as well. They sent over something that was incomplete and not enough. So that's where we are today, and I'll let the leader's office talk about the specifics.
ICE and Border Patrol agents are not real police officers. And that's because real police officers are trained to de-escalate, not to escalate. Real police officers wear body cameras and not masks. And real police officers use judicial warrants and don't engage in racial profiling. We're just asking for ICE and Border Patrol to comply with the standards that real police officers comply with.
Thanks, sir. The House DOGE subcommittee is having its first hearing in a while tomorrow after Marjorie Taylor Greene resigned. Now Tim Burchett is the chair of that subcommittee. It's focusing on getting rid of duplicative federal programs. What is your assessment of the legacy of that subcommittee up to this point, and the legacy of DOGE overall?
I think the American people will be the judge of that. They've already spoken out, many of them at the ballot box recently. Also, I think significantly, the constituents in Virginia have spoken out about the impacts of DOGE. And so I think Republicans know this. I think it's incredibly unfortunate that we are losing good federal workers who want to provide basic services to people across this country. And oftentimes, what DOGE has said they did versus what they actually did just don't align. And so I hope that that is also part of what they review. The promises that they made and what they have said that they cut versus what they've actually cut. And time again, they've brought back people who they've cut because they realize the importance of those programs. But we're losing good federal workers as a result of this administration not honoring the work that they do and providing services to people across this country. That's the unfortunate and lasting legacy of DOGE. Michael?
I want to go back to the tariff vote. You all have been critical of Republicans who speak publicly about opposing a policy, but then get on the floor and vote for that policy. Obviously, there's going to be some whipping in real time from the Republican side. Some of your colleagues, including Kevin Colley, have said that they're going to vote against the rule, but again, they're going to be worked on the floor. What's your message to Republican colleagues who say that they oppose the rule, but will be under pressure this afternoon to vote with the president who opposes you all being able to put disapproval resolutions on the floor, roll back those tariffs?
Yeah, I agree completely with what the vice chair said. If you vote for the rule, you own these tariffs. And even worse than that, if you vote for this rule, you're trying to eliminate our ability to even discuss this. This is the people's house. If we want to discuss tariffs, if we want to discuss how to help people, if we want to discuss policies that the administration is engaged in that hurt people, we should be allowed to do that. This Republican majority set up DOGE subcommittees, and they set up, all these efforts to have the president's back. This is just another example of them doing that. Time and time again, we have seen our Republican colleagues say that they're going to oppose something. They tell you, quotes, that they're going to oppose something, and then the vote opens, and, an hour later, they end up caving for some pinky promise that they received from the speaker and the leadership team. So this is their opportunity. Are they serious about talking about proposals that will lower the costs that people face? Or are they going to continue to hide behind excuses and to give the president their voting card, which so many of them did from the big ugly bill until now? They continue to give the president all of their voting power.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The
show an ID to vote in federal elections?
No, I think this is incredibly problematic, and this bill actually became even more extreme from what you're talking about is a SAVE Act, but I think what you mean is the Save America Act. The SAVE Act is what we talked about and what we voted on previously. The Save America Act is even a more draconian bill that Republicans introduced, and the kicker is that this would require all the voter roll data to be turned over to DHS. The American people are sick and tired of Kristi Noem and the Department of Homeland Security walking around with blank checks doing anything they want. The last thing they want is their voter information going over to DHS. So we'll be voting against the bill. This is not a bill that is serious in nature. This also requires, for those of us states, California, Washington, and others who have permanent vote by mail, this would require even more onerous steps. I think Catherine Clark and Teresa Leger Fernandez are also going to discuss some of the steps specific to women and how this will disenfranchise millions of women across this country as they try to exercise their franchise to vote. People having to do photocopies of their license and sticking them in their ballot when they mail them is just an added onerous step that is part of Republican strategy to suppress the vote. That's what they want, and that's what they continue to steer toward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On a DHS CR, Republicans are really pushing that a shutdown would really only impact agencies like FEMA and TSA, the Coast Guard. I guess are Democrats still holding against at least a short-term CR for DHS to keep negotiations ongoing, or where do you stand on that?
We're opposed to a short-term CR until the administration is serious about negotiations to curb the lawlessness that we see by ICE and CBP. So that's where we continue to be. We're willing to engage in strategies that protect other aspects of Homeland Security, Coast Guard, TSA, and FEMA, if our colleagues are willing to engage. But otherwise, this is a strategy that they own. They get to decide whether they want to shut down Homeland Security. They get to decide whether they want to close these, shutter some of these agencies and the work that they're doing. That's their decision. That's not on us. Last one.
Chairman, in regards to the GOP counterproposal, I know you didn't see the letter specifically, but do you have any indication that Republicans are open to some of the body camera demands that you guys have made?
Public reporting that we read mentioned body cameras, right? Kristi Noem said body cameras in Minnesota, is the vice chair mentioned. Why are we just saying Minnesota? Why can't they actually say body cameras for every individual? That doesn't make any sense. And the body cameras, by the way, are meaningless if they are funded but not operational. They're meaningless if they're funded, but people aren't trained to turn them on, or if officers turn them off as they walk into engaging with constituents and citizens. So that's the problem. This is a shallow, hollow proposal, and if it's serious, that's great. Then we will work with them on language to implement it. But I didn't see any language from Kristi Noem other than they're open to body cameras in Minnesota. If they're willing to engage, they can send language over, and we're happy to review it. And that would be one of the 10 items. They're in that sense, they would be making progress, and then we can work on the other 9 items. Thank you. Yep.
I just want to add to that, again, we're just asking for ICE and Border Patrol to comply with the standards that real police officers comply with. And then back to your previous question, DHS, the Republicans could simply fund FEMA and Coast Guard and all the other agencies and go forward with that, and Democrats would in fact vote for that. It's just the Border Patrol and ICE funding. And so if Republicans choose to shut down, it's their choice to do it this way. And then let me say right after this, I'm going to go to Department of Justice and look at the unredacted Epstein files. Other members of Congress have done that. There's going to be a hearing tomorrow with Attorney General Pam Bondi. If any person mentioned in the Epstein files whose name is currently redacted would like to get out in front of this and disclose stuff, they may want to do that before the storm hits.
Thank you.